Yeah, so my name is George Berg, and my wife is Mary, and we originally came from British Columbia, and we then moved in 1957 to Ontario because our organization is asking people if they could move to various areas where the need was a little greater, and that's being done all over the world, but we were invited, so we moved with our two children to Ontario. Originally went to Oshawa, but the climate to us was very humid, so we North Bay was on the list, so we came to North Bay in 1957. And the year after we moved to Callander, we had bought a trailer so we could move the trailer. And then when our oldest daughter was starting school, she had to cross the main highway. There was no traffic guards at that time. So we were a little nervous about that, so we knew Emerson and Helen Bartraw on the farm, and we asked if we could park our mobile home on their field. So we were not very far from the school that Janet's started, and then Alan also the next year when they built the central school. There was 4 schools that were up for tenders, so we needed a bigger place, so we put a bid in on the Maple Hill School, and we bid at $1,200. So anyway, we were very happy when we found out we got the school. Well, of course, then there was a lot of renovations to do, but it was just like a one-room school. But as our family was growing, the trailer was getting too small. It's good to be able to live in a house that was actually built in 1895. There's a picture in this book here of the school at that time. And then in 1934, they jacked the whole school up and put a stone basement under it. And then they bricked it over top of the clapboard siding. So it is an old building, but it's very sound and solid to this day. And we ended up having 9 children, and quite fitting that we were in a schoolhouse. Well, when I first came to North Bay, I got a job right away with the propane gas company, Shodane Gas, which is now Superior Propane. And then when natural gas came in, I worked at natural gas for about 10 months, and then I got laid off. There was a time when things got slacker, and so, but right away I got back on with the Shodane Gas, and things slowed down there, and I was the last one on, so I got laid off. So that was 1961, and I've worked for myself ever since, which is first delivering bread and pastries all around the country. And that's the days when the Jardines were delivering milk, and that's the days too when Fran Young was delivering mail even on Saturdays. Then I started a janitorial business in North Bay, and I had that for about 8 years. And then I got into remodeling bathrooms with the seamless epoxy system, so I worked all around the area doing that. And then I started a tool business, machinery and tools, in 1984. And that's retired from that in 2011. Sort of semi-retired. Still doing a bit of it. Yeah, we sold woodworking machinery and tools, and we also did about 13 wood shows all over Ontario, and also in Halifax and and Edmonton and Vancouver and Calgary. We did all those wood shows as well, and there was, like I say, about 13 shows a year. So that kept me busy. Well, pretty well everything here is my work, but well, my son did the ceiling here. This was 10-foot ceilings originally, and we dropped them to 8 feet. But just 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to go back up to the 10 feet, and just in the living room. And of course, we built the upstairs too, the bedrooms upstairs. That was all built after. Yeah, we put the bathroom in, and we put the partitions in. Some of them have changed a little since then. But first of all, we had all our friends, and we had a square dance in the school before we. And these are the original floors since 1934, and but they looked just like black. They were just swept with dust paint like oil, so you couldn't really see the grain, but that's the original. And my guess is that it was 1934 when they raised the building up. And of course the windows all changed, but there was an oil furnace in it, which had been replaced from the wood furnace. So we run that for a number of years, and then we switched to wood, and we got, I believe, a government grant to get a wood furnace. We ran just wood for quite a few years, and then when wood got more expensive and oil was fairly cheap, we went to oil again. Just this last year, we'd gone to propane. Janet started school here in grade 1 and grade 2, and Alan was about a half a year before they built the new school in grade 1. Janet was born in '54, so she would be about 5 or just up to 6 when, because she started here.
Yeah.
And Alan was a year and a half younger, so so when we moved to Ontario, Janet would be about 3 and Alan about a year and a half. They were in the same room with the grade 8s, so it was quite different back then with all one teacher teaching all. One teacher was Diane, it was Diane Johnson, then who became Diane South, and then there was a male teacher, Beardsley, I think his name was. I would say there was probably 30 kids maybe. There was slate blackboards on 2 of the walls, complete walls, and when I was delivering bread to different people, they knew, and was able to distribute some of these blackboards to different ones. Some bought them at a low price, but we still have one in the basement. So. Well, we got connected with Sunrich Swiss Bakery, and they wanted to get some routes established. They had routes closer to Sunrich, so we started from just south of Trout Creek, between Trout Creek and South River, and then started bread delivery right up to North Bay. So I had another driver that would look after the North Bay area. And at that time we carried a basket, of a 40-pound basket with pastries in it as well as the bread. And so it was up and downstairs with this 40-pound basket. But we went out to the farmers sometimes as late as 10 o'clock at night, and they'd be up waiting for us. So there's lots of elderly people in Powassan would remember the days when I delivered bread. Well, it just, a lot of people didn't want to travel to the grocery store regular, and this was nice, fresh, Swiss baked products, and people liked that bread. Of course, in those days, I think a loaf of unsliced bread was 18 cents. And the sliced bread, I think it was around maybe 21 cents a loaf. And some people would buy a whole case of bread if they had a lot of children, but that would maybe only be about 2 or 3 times a week we would stop. Well, I was delivering bread every day, but or 5 days, 6 days a week, but I just can't quite remember if every house had every day delivery, but I believe that was the way with Jardines with the milk. It was every day. And of course, we got to know the customers. If they only bought bread, we would just go in with the bread. And then if they decided they want something else, then you run back to the truck. It took it the whole day to deliver, you know, sometimes so late at night to get around to everybody. So even in the winter, got stuck a few times. Yeah, some of the long laneways are drifted right in. And I got pulled out by a team of horses once, but not delivering bread. I was going to visit somebody down there on Commanda, and it was breakup time, and I got caught in big mud holes and couldn't get out. And I walked to a farm and got pulled out with a team of horses, the Peters brothers. My first car was a 1929 Model A Ford with no heater, so we put in what they call a manifold heater to get a little heat in them. But British Columbia was not as cold as Ontario. I had that car for probably just a couple of years, and then I went to a 1935 Dodge. We were in Callander. We were there when we built the first Kingdom Hall in Callander, 1958, and then Powassan would go to Callander. There was no congregation in Powassan, and in 1967 we built the new hall just up in the North Highway there, and Chisholm had a Kingdom Hall and Nipissing had a Kingdom Hall. So we all amalgamated in the Powassan Kingdom Hall. Mm-hmm. And then about 20 years ago we built the present new Kingdom Hall. And that's one of the things I've been involved in working on Kingdom Halls all over Quebec and Ontario. I think about 24 different Kingdom Halls. And it'd be hard to believe, but a lot of these Kingdom Halls were built on a weekend. We had some of the work done, maybe the basic foundation slabs, and some of them had basements with apartments or rooms, and they were built ahead of time. And started on Friday morning, 7 o'clock, and by Sunday night the lawns were laid, the landscaping was done, everything was completed. We had our first meeting with the rugs laid and all decorated.
Wow!
But now they're not doing them in a rush on a weekend, but they're taking a little longer. But they're built very well. Yeah, and there are approximately 80 persons coming to the meetings, each meeting twice a week. I can't say it was ever that difficult. Like even in the early days when we were under ban and that, you were in touch, and you were. We feel that we had Jehovah God's help, and everything we've done. The ones that were put in internment camps during the war, they seemed to enjoy the times they were there, and they had their own meetings there, and were treated fairly well, except the government and kept them in the camps the year after the war was over, just because they were good workers. And so it was actually John Diefenbaker that, when he was a member of Parliament, got up and questioned the Parliament, why are they still in camp? He said they shouldn't have been there in the first place, because they were never a threat to the country.
Yeah.
And so they were a little embarrassed then, and then they were released. Yes, we've many times visited other parts of the country, East Coast and West Coast, but because our family was from the West Coast, I liked it when we grew up there, but the population wasn't that high. But now the traffic, it's like driving in Toronto, like that's at the coast in Vancouver area. You spend half your life at stop signs and stop and go on bridges, and so people think it's why would you leave British Columbia? It's nice, but it rains a lot. You don't hear all of that rain and fog. Or after these trips, we come back, and as soon as we get Powassan in view, it just feels so good, and no traffic lights at all.